Hello everyone, my name is Shubhajit and today we will be discussing about one of the best practices of useEffect hook and also some of the errors which new developers make uh, while coding or using the useEffect hook. So let's get started. I highly encourage you to go through the user state as well as the basics of useEffect hook video which is already there in the channel. I will also put it in the description, so please go there, watch it. They will be small only and you can finish them in a very less time and then come back here and we can continue. So yep, let's get started. So here we have a state variable named server URL, and initially it is assigned a value to this HTTP localhost 8080. We have a count variable here which is initially set to value 0. Okay, and then we have a handle click method which actually increments the count by 1. Then we have an object here, and what this object does, it actually, okay, we have this options object which have server URL, key and value, room ID, key and value. So server URL is coming from the state variable and the room ID is uh, which is present outside the chat room component, this room ID. So actually this room ID is not reactive because it is present outside the chat room component only, and the number of times the chat room component will re-render room, it will not depend on the room ID thing, but it will definitely depend on the server URL because server URL is present inside the chat room component and it is reactive due to the use state. Okay, so we should know that whenever the server URL value changes, this whole component will be rendered again. Oh, sorry. This whole component will be rendered again. Okay. Now, going forward, we also have a useEffect hook here. And what we have specified inside the dependency array is an options object. Now, if some of you know React a bit or have used it, you should be able to guess it by now that specifying a dependency as an object is not a good practice for in React. Whenever we are specifying an object as a dependency for useEffect, it is not at all good. You can also see that the options object makes the dependencies of useEffect hook uh, change on every render. Let me explain you that. So in React, objects, arrays, and functions, the non-primitive types, they are stored as references. Okay, so this options will be containing a reference which is the reference of this, which is the reference where this whole object is stored. Okay, now we should also understand that whenever the component is re-render again, this options gets a new reference value where this object is stored. So this object is created again whenever a new re-render is happening, and this options variable will get a new reference which is pointing to this whole object. So in short, you should take take the thing as whenever a new re-render happening, the options will get a new reference value. That's it. And whenever the options is getting a new reference value on every re-render, this dependency array is having a changed value now, so this use effect will run. Okay, okay, but you should also understand that when server URL changes, then this options object content changes, and then the connection creation and the disconnection happens. That is fine for us. Okay, but whenever the count variable changes, which doesn't have to do anything with this options object, but still as the count value changes, this whole component will be re-rendered. This actually creates a new options reference variable, and thus it will change it here also. It will see detect a change in options here also, and thus useEffect will run again. But if you see, it should not run, but due to the behavior of React and how it deals with objects, how it creates a new reference every time, this useEffect will take it as changed value with the new rerender, and that's why it runs this. Now, how to solve this issue? So currently I am aware of these two methods. There might be others also, but these two are very standard procedures. First is, you can use the use memo hook in React. I have also covered this hook in detail. If you want, you can have a look. It will be present in the channel, and also I will put it in the description. Then you can come back and continue. So how to change it to use callback? So use callback basically caches, use memo basically caches the things out. Okay, and what is the structure of use memo here? So yeah, it will return an object, and yeah, okay, and here it is, use memo, and we should have a dependency array which actually contains the server URL only, because it is dependent on server URL only. And let us import the use memo hook from React. Now what you see, this options this options object will be initialized by wrapping it inside the user memo hook. So this value will only be sent to the options object when the server URL is changed. If the server URL doesn't change, then this options will have the previous reference value, the cached reference value from the previous rerender, and it will not get a new value from here. So in this way we are actually saving this options object from having any change, and thus I am saving from calling the use effect again. Okay. I forgot one thing. I actually didn't show you in the UI demo that how it actually looks like, or what was the error happening. Let me code it out. Server URL, room ID. Okay, yeah. So this is it. Let's go to the UI. Okay, let's go to the UI. Let's refresh this. Okay, let's clear this out. Now, if you see, whenever I make a change here, this connection and disconnection is happening, and that is very much fine because the use effect is running, you know. So whenever the use effect is running due to the change in server URL, that is very obvious. But according to me, the use effect should not be running on this change of count state variable, because the the options object is not at all related. This options object is not at all related to the count state variable, and if it is running that use effect which is only dependent on the options object, even when the count variable is changed, it's not good, right? So to save from that, or uh, to remove this type of situation, we are using the use memo hook, which is the first option here. So let me clear this out. Okay, now if I make a change here, the use effect has been called, connection and disconnection is happening, that is fine. But when I click this, you see no console logs are present. It means use effect is not running, and that is the ideal behavior. So I have told you the first approach, that is with the help of use memo. Now let me tell you the second approach, where we don't need to use this use memo hook. As you see in on hovering this, it is also telling that uh, the options object makes a dependency of use effect hook change on every rerender. Yeah, options object is changing on every rerender, even if that options content changes or not. Okay, the count variable, which is not at all related to options content, still options will get a new value on every re-render. So we can just move it inside the useEffect callback, right? As it has no other use, I will just cut it from here. I will paste it here, and that's done. Now I just have to remove the dependency array to only server URL. You might be wondering that okay, server URL we are changing because server URL is the state value, but why not to room ID? Room ID is also present inside the user effect. Why we are not doing it like this? Okay, so we are not doing it like this because room ID is not a reactive value. So change of, okay, room ID is not at all a reactive value. It is present outside the component. It is type of a constant static value. Okay, if it is present inside the component, then we can mark it as a reactive value, but as it is not present inside the component, let it be. Okay, if you put it also, it will not cause any harm, but it will just be an extra thing. If you see, react hook use if it is an unnecessary dependency room ID. So yeah, just remove it. Okay, so now the dependency array server URL is actually a string, which is a primitive value, and it will not change on every re-render even if the count variable is changed, not the server URL. If the server URL is not changed, the use effect will not be called. So let's see it in action. Let me refresh this, clear this out, and now the server URL is changing, so this disconnect and connect and disconnect should happen. Can you see? Yeah. But now whenever you clicked me, this count variable changes, no disconnect and connect is happening. That is, the use effect is not running. So these are the two ways which I have shown you. But according to me, this is a good approach because use memo is not required. So one more hook we don't need to import and use it. If we can just put this options object inside the use effect only, and whatever dependencies inside the object options object, we can just pass it inside the dependency array, which are reactive values. So that is it. Okay, so one more thing is remaining. What if we have functional dependencies? So now we have just told like explained you about the object dependencies, but what if we have functional dependencies? Okay, so let's also discuss this. This will not take much time because the core like basic you have understood. Let's say we have, and I will also show you how to change it into uh, a function. Const create, not create connection, create options. So this is a function now. Return and paste this here. So I just need to return this. So it is returning the same object, and now I will call the create options here. Okay, so I'm calling this, which in turn is returning this options object only, which we have previously, but here we have given the function in place of direct object. So this comes as a functional dependency. Now we need to add it here. Oh, sorry, we have to uh, add this functional dependency here. Okay, now also see what it is showing. The create function, the create options function makes the dependency of use effect hook change at every re-render. So the same way as the object, so we have the const options, right? Const options is equals to this. So the options at every re-render will have a different reference value. The same way, create options is a function. It will also have a different reference value for this whole function on every re-render. Arrays, objects, functions, these three have similar type of behavior. Okay, so these three have different reference values on every re-render. So to avoid this, again, as we have in the first case for objects, first one was use memo and the second one putting a whole putting this whole inside the use effect only. So here also with functions, we will use the use callback hook or else putting it inside the use effect function. So let me show you how to do it with the use callback hook first. So I will highly recommend you to see the use callback hook video. If you haven't seen that, it will be very easy for you to understand. It will just cache the function definition actually. Okay, so here it goes, and we have a dependency array, and this dependency array will be of server URL. Okay, use callback, let's import it. Okay. Hmm. Okay, create options, and create options is here. Okay, so now we should understand that the create options will not be changing if there is no change in the server URL. Whenever there is a change in server URL, then only the create options will be changing. But if there, let's say there is a change in count state variable, then this create options will not change. If this create option will not change, then it will not trigger the use effect to run again. Got it? Right. Okay. So one more thing, again the same mistake. I need to show you what happens without the use callback first, right? Const create options, okay, and this function will return this. So this, and I will uncomment this out. Okay, so this will return this. This was initially the create options function. Now let's go back to the UI and let's refresh it, clear this out. On change of this, connect and disconnect, that is use effect is being called. That is very much fine because server URL is changing. But if we press this button which changes the count, use effect should not be called, but it is called. So let's go with the first approach of using the use callback hook. Okay, now let's see that what happens. Okay, let's clear this out. Changing the server URL. Okay, working fine. Use effect is being called, but clicking this use effect should not be called. Can you see any console log? No, use effect is not called now. Now get back to the second solution. So what was the second solution? Remove this use callback, put this back in. The second option was, why not you move this whole function inside the use effect in that way? Because create options is only used inside this use effect, so just move it inside that and give it the dependency as server URL. Now everything is fine, right? And I don't think it needs an explanation because I have given a lot of explanation previously in this video. So just go back to the demo. Yeah, refresh this, clear this out. Changing the server URL, connect and disconnect is happening, but changing this connect and disconnect is not happening. That is use effect is not being called, and it's very obvious, it's very much good. We are able to achieve the thing which we want to achieve. I would recommend this because an extra use callback hook is not required and it's very easy. So I hope this video is insightful for you and you have understood all the things. Thanks a lot guys for hearing me out for so long, and if you have any doubts, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you.